So you're out of the pickle, and you're going to take your sanding stick with 400 grade paper on it and tidy up your solder joins. I would just hold it in my fingers, because oftentimes if you have something that's fairly fragile, if you're trying to brace it against your bench peg, you'll bend it out of shape. If the solder bumps are a little bit high, which this one is, take your number 2 cut flat hand file, gently file it into shape, and then sand it with your sanding stick. So I'm just going to go over all of them. Do the sides, and don't worry about the inside. At this stage, with your solder all tidied up, you could solder a little jump ring on the top and then make a hook so that you could put it on the tree or around your neck. You could put colored silk on the inside, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use commercial findings for a change. I normally don't. These are fine silver, stamped, and they're for an 8mm cabochon. And I'm going to put 3 of them in this, and you just put it opening down and what I'm going to do is solder this from this side using easy solder. We don't want to open up any of our joins. So what I'm going to end up with is a cabochon, a space, a cabochon, a space. Yeah. And then I'll use probably green jade and maybe carnelian, red and green, just to be traditional. So what I've done is just rest this on the jaws of my third hand. And by doing it this way, I end up with the back of the bezel setting flat and flush with the wire, which is what we want. You always want to make sure that when you're soldering your bezel to something else, you always want to make sure that the lip is still sticking up enough that you can push it over. If you solder something right up to the edge of the lip, then you'll just have to glue your cab in, because you won't be able to push it over. So same old neutral flame. I've told you to use easy solder. I'm actually using hard because I'm perverse. So just dry out your flux. Keep your solder pick handy. So just circle your flame. The majority of your flame needs to be on the wire because it's so much thicker than your setting. Yep. Then quench it, set up your next one. Lovely. So that's that. They're all soldered on. Now I'm going to solder a small jump ring on the top, just because I think I should. Because it will look neater having a small jump ring up there than just having the wire looped through the ball. So close your jump ring as perfect as you can get it. File a flat across the join. Put it on your charcoal block. Position this flux one little piece of solder. So I've dried out my flux. Now I'm just circling between the jump ring and the top of the ball. Beauty. So now we're finished. Quench it, pickle it, have a look at all of your solder joins, and now is the time to tidy anything up. I'm pretty happy with this, but what you need to do is, before you set the stones, is just smooth off the top edge of the bezel, because when they stamped it, they left it fairly sharp. So do all of them. Any tidying up with the sandpaper you need to do now before you put the stone in. Don't ever get your sandpaper anywhere near your stones. And I've got a little bit of tidying up to do next to the bezel, so we'll do that now. And then we'll set the stones. Hallmark your little top loop. Now when you put your stone in, give it a bit of a push to make sure that you can see the inside edge of your bezel all the way around. And I'm just going to hold this against the point of my bench peg and gently push. Because it's fine silver, it won't take much effort to push it against the stone. And then once it's against the stone, we can just use our burnisher. What we don't want to do is put enough pressure on any of this to distort the ball. And being fine silver, this will be quite easy to push. Yep. So that's the first one. I've got garnet, lapis, and rose quartz. And the reason I have those is because that's what I had. So I'm not even bracing it against my bench peg. I'm just pushing the edge of the bezel against the stone all the way around. Check them all. And now go over it with your burnisher. Be careful with the point on your burnisher because you don't want to drag it against your wire because you'll put ugly scratches in it. So just make sure you're just burnishing the edge of the bezel. And then we're going to tumble it. Now we're just going to make a hook to hang this onto a branch. So a loop about that big, center it, and I reckon about 60 mil long. And something branch size. So about like that. Looks suspiciously like an earring. So what we're going to do is just tidy up these ends so they're not sharp. I'm not going to solder that. And that way the bowl can be used for various things. If it's not on a tree, it can be around your neck. You can make a pair of them for earrings. So that's it.